Is up, team? Hey guys, hope you're doing well. We've got an awesome episode here today of Quarantine Catch Up. Really looking forward to this one. I am joined by my friend, the CEO and Chief Customer Officer of PricePoint, Mr. Ben Heller. Ben,
Hi,
how
David.
you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I know you and I are usually used to catching up at a hotel bar somewhere or a conference somewhere, but I guess this is the next best thing.
It's close. It's close.
Yeah.
No, it's good to see you, and I'm glad that we're doing this.
Yeah,
Thanks
me
for
too.
inviting me.
Yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, no. Thanks for joining me. You had mentioned before we started recording that you went to 22 mobility conferences last year, so that's almost two a month. Man, are you dying by not traveling right now? You know, how are you doing?
I miss it. I like because I don't know about you, but it's probably similar. Like as you get older, your friends sort of diminish a little bit, and you have your work, you have your family. I have Pip who's 4, but like the mobility community became my friends, and I really miss being around my friends, and so that's what I miss. But at the same time, we're all adapting. We're all finding ways to thrive in this new next normal. Um, and I found a routine that works for me. We were just talking about how we both enjoy running. I go to the park across the street from me, go down to the lake in the morning. That gets my mind right. And then all day, I am really blessed to have an absolutely wonderful team around me of really smart, creative, humble, hungry people who care about what we do. And it's a really great feeling. So overall, things are good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great attitude to have. And I think kind of to your point, same thing. I really miss the people. I miss the relationships. And that's one reason that I wanted to start this and kind of use this as a vehicle and really an excuse just to reach out to people and connect and hit the record button, post it on LinkedIn, and hopefully someone out there finds what we talk about interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
If you don't, just don't comment or watch it. That's okay. Okay. Well, Ben, man, I really appreciate you joining. I'm interested to learn more about your personal story. You and I know each other pretty well. Again, we're on the circuit with each other. We see each other a lot of places. But I'm interested to learn kind of, your journey and how you got to mobility and how you ultimately got to PricePoint. So before we get into that, we're doing a segment with each of these that we're calling the Fast Five. And I wanted to get into that.
Okay,
So
let's
five
do it.
questions. Yeah, 5 questions that are not so hard hitting, just aim to get to know Ben Heller a little bit better. Are you ready for the
I'm ready.
first 5?
Let's do it.
All right, bring it on. Okay, number 1. I've asked this a couple of people. I'm interested to know your answer. Number 1 of the Fast 5. If there's a movie that is being made about Ben Heller's life, who is the actor that is going to play Ben?
Matthew Broderick.
Ooh.
But like when I'm older.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then there
So
will be a younger
not a
version of
Ferris
me.
Bueller, Matthew Broderick.
No.
Okay.
Matthew Broderick of today, who's very gray. But
Yeah.
like he'll be me in like when I'm 60. I want Matthew Broderick doing that, and then I'll have
Okay.
some unknown actor to do me as a younger person.
Okay. Okay. I like it. That's a good one. That's the first time I've heard Matthew Broderick, so I like it. Okay, moving on to number 2. You and I, I think we're both avid readers and talk about different books with each other. This is a question I've also asked some other folks. Interested to know your answer. Not necessarily your favorite book,
Okay.
but if you had to choose a book to give as a gift to someone, what would that book be?
So I would want to make it about them and something that they wouldn't necessarily get themselves.
Hmm.
Um, so if they were kind of a guy like me, I would get them Ready Player One. That we like that book is
Great book.
candy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
If they were just getting into like the business world, I would get them Start with Why. Someone recommended, I think it was Chris at Air Inc., who recommended that I read that when I was just getting into PricePoint.
Yeah.
And that book changed the way I thought about sales and thought about storytelling. And so I think it's a really important book. But yeah, for anyone watching this, go watch the YouTube video of Simon Sinek talking about the TED Talk of Start With Why, and you get 90% out of it.
Yeah. No, good suggestion. And let's hold on to that, because I'm really interested, as we kind of go and talk about your career, entering into sales, because you didn't start really with a sales background, did you?
No, I sold cell phones in a mall.
Okay. In a kiosk, you're one of those guys asking, sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, that was me. I was like, "Hi, how are you doing? Can I interest you in a great cell phone deal today?" Every person who walked by, right in front of a Dillard's, and I learned a lot. And I learned that I did not want that job.
Hey, that is, we can poke fun at that, but that is a great life lesson of how to deal with rejection. Because those guys are dealing with rejection day in and day out. So that's for sure. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Number 3. All right. Are you familiar with would you rather questions?
Yes.
You have to pick an option. Okay. So would you rather never have to sit in traffic ever again? So you have the power. You can just drive straight through.
Okay.
Or never have to wait in a line again.
Definitely never sit in traffic again.
Just quick answer, right off.
Yeah, because I really enjoy driving. My dad was always a car enthusiast. I learned how to drive a stick, and driving around is fun for me, except in Long Island where I live. It is joyless. Right. There's so much traffic everywhere. And so, I assume that in the next few years, we'll all be driving autonomous cars, and I'll hit a button and I'll watch something, but I still won't be able to enjoy driving. So definitely first one.
All right. Good answer. I like it. Okay. Number 4 of the Fast 5. If you had to choose to start all over again, and no limitations, you could tell me NBA basketball player, you could tell me that. If you had to choose a career, instead of immobility and relocation, start all over, what would you go into?
And money's no object? Like I have unlimited money?
No limitations.
I would do a whole bunch of different things.
Okay.
So
a Renaissance man of sorts.
I'm not a musician, but I really like creating music. And so in high school, I was in a bunch of bands, and I always liked recording. But I knew that even if I was a great recording engineer, I'd earn at most maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year. Yeah. And so that was never a career that I was going to go into because of money. Same thing with stereo equipment. My dad is an engineer, built stereo amplifiers as a hobby. And so I grew up with a lot of high-end audio equipment around the house. And I really loved the idea of I loved going to home theater stores and seeing all the different experiences and learning about the speakers. And I wanted to do that. And then my favorite stereo store went out of business. And I was like, if the greatest store that ever existed went out of business, how should I be expected to do this? So for a while there, I actually thought about doing this, where I wanted to start a store called Headphones for All Mankind, which was geared towards introducing and really designing audio products for women, because I feel like audio in general had been very overweight towards nerdy males. And women at the time, I didn't see them wearing headphones beyond the white earbuds that come with your iPhone. Right. And I felt that, sound is one of those things where you're sort of colorblind until you experience the great audio, you can't appreciate it. And I wanted to have this be very designed for women, and where they could go in and experience it. And then the last thing, we both have kids. Pip is 4 years old. He just turned 4.
Yeah.
Got all these wood trains around the house. And if I had unlimited money and could do whatever I want, I would go build a model train company that's designed for wood trains, that works on Bluetooth, and you can control lots of different engines and activities. And I would just build the cars. I wouldn't build the track. It would be agnostic to all the wooden track out there.
So, so like a very classic feel and look, but with modern technology.
Yeah, and a high-end product that would attract older individuals as well, not just kids.
Very cool, man. I can tell you've thought about this a lot. Don't leave us in mobility anytime soon, Ben. Okay, maybe that's something for retirement. Okay.
Yeah, when I don't have to worry about money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever that will be.
Yeah,
All
probably
right.
when I'm 92.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, final question, number 5. This has been
Okay.
good. Number 5. Okay, Ben, you are hosting a dinner party,
Yep.
and you can invite 3 people. And
Okay.
here's the kicker: you can invite any 3 people, dead or alive. So they could be a current celebrity, athlete, politician, or any historical figure throughout time. What 3 people would you invite to your dinner?
Okay. um, I'm gonna go with a very weird 3 because I would love to see the chaos that ensues.
Okay.
Like John McCain,
Okay. Yeah.
Courtney Love, and
Okay.
Steve Jobs.
And Steve Jobs. Okay.
I
Okay.
would like I would like Courtney Love is like a feral animal and would just create chaos. And it would be really interesting to see John McCain in that atmosphere. I would
All
love
right.
to have a conversation with him. I think he's an amazing person. And Steve Jobs, I would like to have a separate conversation with and just talk about business
Yeah.
and learn from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's a weird dinner party.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Courtney Love is just kind of the wrench thrown into the system there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Ben. I appreciate you indulging me for the Fast Five. I love those answers, and I'm really excited to talk to you a little bit today because, like I said at the beginning, we know each other pretty well, but I'm using this as an opportunity to dig a little deeper with folks and kind of learn more about their journey through mobility and relocation and what led them to this industry and ultimately what has kept you here. And so I know it always hasn't been relocation for you. Why don't we start from the very beginning? I understand, I know you were born outside of Philadelphia. Is that correct?
Yep, I have 2 amazing parents, Barb and Rick. Barb is a music teacher, or was a music teacher. Rick was an electrical engineer, sort of a mad scientist type who ended up running an electrical construction company. And there was a lot of love in the house. I was always encouraged to do and try everything. I was encouraged to be in the musical, in the plays, in the marching band, in a sport every season. And so I really liked just being around people and connecting with people so like eventually after high school, I went to college in New Orleans. I wanted to go someplace different and fun, and New Orleans is definitely different and fun. And
New Orleans is both of those things. That's for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
I learned a lot, just not much in school.
So you went to Tulane, right? The
That's
Green
right.
Wave?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Tulane undergrad in business, fell in love with a girl, stuck around, worked a job in electrical construction because I thought I would eventually go into the family business. And my first day was September 11th. And so all the jobs shut down.
Wow.
And I looked at my options. I sold Volkswagens for 16 hours. I actually sold a Passat.
For 16 hours?
Yeah. I did it, and then I realized that, oh, I do not want to be doing this. Do I want to be selling German cars as America, keep America rolling was the general theme. It was very patriotic, and I just didn't think that I was going to be selling a lot of Passats in the future after that. So I left that job and went and got my MBA at Loyola. Ended up canceling that girl. We broke up, but I stuck around in New Orleans and Loyola New Orleans. And then in that, I took a class in quality management. And I had this great professor who made us do a Baldrige audit. And I really liked it a lot. I liked going in and fixing things within companies and making things more efficient. And so that really was sort of a catalyst for me to end up in the supply chain industry. I got lucky and I ended up working at a company called JV Kelly Group based in Long Island. Jim Kelly, brilliant mind in procurement, had a whole bunch of people working around him who were like-minded. And I luckily worked under this guy, Ryder Daniels, who was brilliant and just gave me every at bat possible. Like put me into a situation. All right, Ben, show them what you got, and let me step up. And it was great. And I really liked it. And then from that, I went to work at Wyeth Pharmaceutical, in their procurement department. And then, but at the time fell in love with Ariel, and my current wife, and she was in New York and Wyeth was in Philadelphia. And so when there was an opportunity for me to come back to New York and work at AIG, which used to be a highly esteemed and respected company,
Yes.
I jumped at it. And so I went back and worked at AIG in their supply chain and procurement group for a while. And
So
then, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to jump in. So we're moving pretty quick here. So when you were coming out of graduate school after you have your MBA,
Yeah.
did you always want to get back to the Northeast? You know, had you had your time and fun in the South and in New Orleans, or was there any, desire to stay in that region at all?
I wanted to stay. I really wanted to stay. Like, New Orleans is wonderful, but there are no jobs that involve analytic in New Orleans. It's New Orleans is a weird microcosm of like humanity in that it's service industry jobs and oil and gas and energy.
Yeah.
And if your last name is Bouget, great, you're gonna do just fine. But like, people in New Orleans don't care about their job. Like you care deeply about your job. People in New York and most major cities, when you talk to them and you meet someone, within 30 seconds they're talking about their job. In New Orleans, it's not like that. It's family, friends, God, and your job is just it's money. It's transactional. Who cares?
Yeah. Maybe a necessary evil almost. Yeah.
That's it. And so I tried to get like a career going in New Orleans, and I just couldn't find a conduit for it. I came back to Philadelphia as sort of a stopping ground for a few months to find a gig, and lucked out in New York.
Gotcha. So you started, I guess, kind of your procurement and supply chain career. Was that with the firm in Long Island, or when you? Okay, and that's kind of when you started that. So, as you take, different roles with different organizations, and let's get back to AIG. Did you think at the time you're like, okay, this procurement thing, I like kind of seeing how organizations work from the inside and how they function. Yeah. Did you see yourself staying with that for a while?
No, because like I was really lucky in that JV Kelly Group was a consulting firm. So I worked with probably 20 different clients, and I could see how procurement worked. And I think at the time, procurement was inherently flawed. It was completely based in savings. Like, you have a baseline, you have a future state, measure the difference, that's savings. Well, that's all well and good in the first generation of sourcing something, or where you're consolidating spend across the organization. But in the second, third, fourth generation, now you're cutting out like real things. You can no longer afford to pay for the people that do the job and make it great. And I actually found that procurement was doing a disservice to most of the organizations. They weren't focusing on being a business partner, and really, like, the metrics were not how many successful projects where the business stakeholder felt like you added value. It was, how much money did you save? Ben, you didn't save $4 million this year. You didn't hit your number. That was the kind of thing that I was being hit with, and I thought it was wrong. And when I was at Accenture, and I just stumbled into mobility. The first project that I had, I was working on an Owens Corning RFP for the relocation management company, and I just saw how badly procurement messes up mobility. Because mobility is just this really complex supply chain, and the relocation management company is like, if you're a first-time procurement person, you are used to negotiating those fees down and call it a day. Well, the RMC is like 3% of the total spend. It's nothing.
Right.
And so I looked at it and I was like, what we do in procurement in general does not fit this model at all. And I kept doing more of them, and I ended up working on like 50 different projects in the relo space, and I just kept learning more and more and seeing how deep the rabbit hole goes. And meanwhile, I was doing this in insurance as well. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to jump in. There's so much good stuff here. So in your experience, let's just rewind just a second before we get into Accenture. So in your experience, because I think that can be a frustration for, I'm obviously in the household goods space.
Yeah.
I think probably for the RMC side as well, I think that can be a frustration when they're working with, procurement of a potential client or a
Yeah.
prospective client,
Without a
um,
doubt.
where the individual or individuals in supply chain or procurement, they don't know anything about relocation or
Right.
household goods or whatever it may be.
Mhm.
In your experience, were there any other RFPs or bids that you ran that were, only service oriented?
Sure. Lots of them.
Okay.
But
So
they
did
were
you find?
never anywhere near as complex as mobility,
Hmm,
because you would be negotiating the service, you would understand it. With mobility, you're generally, I mean, I don't know what percentage of mobility is outsourced to relocation management companies. It's got to be around 60, maybe 70%, something like that. Um, and so you're focusing on that, but that is a conduit to all these other services. And it's really the communication and coordination of all those services. It's so going at it with your typical procurement lens just doesn't work very well.
right.
It's like the biggest driver of savings is policy.
Hmm,
Procurement has no business in driving mobility policy. It's a
right.
benefit. So it required me to evolve as a person out of a procurement mindset into an HR specialist and focusing on enabling the business to succeed through mobility.
So
And
maybe from the corporate side, what advice would you give, a director of global mobility? Is it more about like education to their procurement group, or you have to kind of assume like a consultative role with them, or?
so if I'm talking with an HR stakeholder at a corporation, I would say the first thing is don't be a pushover.
Hmm,
Don't let procurement come in and tell you how it's going to be, because I've seen so many bad decisions get made
hmm,
through the lens of procurement. So procurement has a lot of value to add to mobility because the supply chain is so complex. But you, the HR professional, need to be in charge and step up your understanding of how procurement is being measured and what they're going after and what their assumptions are. And Jack Jampel at Stryker does a very good job of this.
yeah.
And I know any HR person out there would love to you can learn a lot from the way he manages procurement. And he has a very good relationship with them. But that I think is the first step. Um, and then the second thing I would recommend is get your procurement team educated. So before the RFP goes out, have them talk with a lot of mobility people, the people that you're considering, get them to be part of the conversation, understand how it works. Um, you can save a tremendous amount of time if that mobility procurement person is educated.
Yeah, yeah. So let's go to let's go to Accenture.
Okay.
And so you're managing RFPs and bids in that group. And you said just by chance, just by happenstance, a mobility bid falls on your desk.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be easy. I really did.
Yeah,
I like
we're moving
I was,
people. What's the big
I,
deal?
I was like, oh, it's my first project here. Let me take this easy one. And I was really lucky in that Greg Stewart, who used to be at Cardis, I think he's now at New Compass, brilliant mind. He knows just a tremendous amount about mobility, and I was just learning from him.
Mm,
And so going through that experience, I learned a tremendous amount from him, and I made so many mistakes. The
mm.
first RFP, I made so many mistakes, and then I did another one, and I made so many more mistakes. So like, even though I thought I had it right, I was like, oh nope, I missed that. I can remember making comparisons of people who were actually doing the services and those that were coordinating the services, and I couldn't tell the difference. It was a huge mistake.
Mm.
And like, I'm too into it and I'm still making errors like that. And so I just keep going and learning more and more and building up knowledge and working with, like, I remember going to ERC and just walking the room and stopping by every single booth and learning about the industry. And that's when I realized, like, oh, this is not just something I like working on. This is where I want to build my career.
Mm.
I love this industry because, like, it doesn't work without partnerships. It's got an incredibly complex supply chain, and the people are just warm, empathetic, loving. They have a worldly view. It's the best industry. And so like as I was in I guess year 5 of it was Procurian, and then Accenture, which bought us. Um, I I realized that I wanted to move into this industry full time because I probably only had 30% of my projects be mobility projects at Accenture,
Mm-hmm.
and that was when I met Ryan and saw what he had did to really automate move pricing for the movers. And I felt that if we connected mobility to the movers and the movers to their supply chain, some amazing things could happen. And because like running an RFP where I was bidding out household goods, I got played. I got like even 5, 6 times into it, I got played.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
didn't. You don't you don't know the games, and so after learning it and looking at all the things out there, I felt that we could, like what Ryan had built was the foundation of what could really solve a tremendous amount of problems in the
Well,
industry.
and I guess, in your role, you're consulting with a client through the bid process, and you see great pricing, let's say from the household goods side, but then you don't have any obligation, or correct me if I'm wrong, you don't have any obligation to 6 months, a year down the road, follow up with the winning bidder and say,
Right.
well, are you keeping that pricing that won you the bid, right?
That's right. And
Okay.
and every time you get played,
Right.
and unless you go and put in an audit in there.
Right.
And at Accenture believed in actualizing savings, so we went and tracked it, and it never happened.
Mm.
Like, and so I just I realized that this part of our industry was broken.
Yeah.
And then when I talked with Ryan's smarter than I am. He's a
Yeah.
brilliant guy, and saw he was playing the games. He saw how it worked and would go and play games, and realize that everyone in the industry has to be doing that, or
Yeah.
else they're not winning any business.
Yeah.
And he was trying to change it, and I felt like we just had such similar values, and it took me a while before I was ready to leave, because like I looked at it like a marriage, like
Yeah. Yeah.
and but it's been a really good marriage. Like we
So
get along very very well, and I feel very blessed that I found Ryan and was this opportunity.
yeah, yeah. So for everyone out there, unless if you're living under a rock, we're talking about Ryan Kientz, who's the founder of Price Point. And so how first of all, how did you guys meet?
Uh, we met at an ERC.
Okay.
A mover actually came and pitched me Price Point, and I was like, okay, I understand what you do. What is this other thing? And
Mm.
he walked me through it. I was like, can I talk to him? And Ryan pitched me, and I had like 50 clients that I was responsible for, and I had gone down, like I met with the auditors and thought that maybe that was the right solution. And when I saw what Ryan did, I was like, no,
Yeah.
that's not right at all. And then I say, okay, Ryan, give me a call. Let's do this. And Ryan never called me back. And it was like,
That's great.
wow, you like, I'm a conduit to 50
Yeah.
potential
Yeah. Like,
clients,
yeah. Yeah.
and you don't call me back. What's up with that? So, like, I approached him and was like, look, I think I can help you, and it's been great because Ryan does not really enjoy the selling side of things.
Right.
He's great at it. Get him into a room. He is brilliant, but he doesn't like the following up and doing sales. He's an introverted guy, and so I think that we just complemented each other really well. And
Yeah.
it's
So
been great.
at what point do your conversations start to morph into, man, why don't you come over here and join me? Or did you propose? Did you say,
I
man, I
proposed.
really think we could kind of take this to the next level?
Yeah, I understood mobility fairly well at that point, more so than he did. He was more on the moving side of things, and I saw where it could be applicable to the mobility industry, and I felt that there was an opportunity. And I like, um, going back to Tulane days. I had taken this wonderful class with Sidney Pulitzer, and he had said, if you want to do something, put a date on it. And I
Mm.
had committed to him that I was going to start a business by the time I was 45. And I had always wanted to do it. I saw my dad run a business and grew up in that environment and how he treated employees, and the financial freedom that he eventually earned from it. I wanted that, and I was looking for that type of opportunity. And so I approached Ryan, and it took probably 4 months of negotiating before I was comfortable to say yes. And also, my son was born right then.
I would,
Like that was a big change to have a baby and a new entrepreneurship where I'm making less than half of what I used to make. It
wow.
was a big deal.
Yeah, no
Um,
kidding. I mean, from the security and, peace of mind of working for a large organization, a huge organization like Accenture,
yeah,
and just knowing, where your benefits and your paycheck, obviously everything's coming from.
yeah,
To take that leap of faith, I mean, I think it says a lot about not only your relationship with Ryan and what you saw there, but then of course your faith in the product and what you thought it could do, in the space. So
yeah. I'd say the biggest thing was actually Ariel, my wife.
mm,
Like Ariel was supportive of it, and
that's huge.
and so like if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to be like Ariel makes a decent living, and uh, but like it's really hard. I mean, to start up something and go and be told no, that's never going to work. I had lots of people telling me that this was never going to work, um, but persisting through that all while not making a lot of money, all while having a brand new son. And Ben, now probably isn't the time to start your entrepreneurship. Like
Right.
you should wait. That's hard to overcome, but I just believed in it, and we were really lucky with every single hire we got.
Mm.
Every single person we hired was out of the park, just wonderful, super intelligent, hardworking, believed in what we were doing. So that I'd say that and Ariel were the biggest things.
Yeah, super important, super important. Uh, um, okay, so I kind of want to get your perspective on this because we talked about it earlier, about selling and, ultimately, and a lot of people know Ryan, obviously, he's been in the industry for a long time, but Ben, you're really the face of Price Point, the face and voice of Price Point. And I told you this earlier before we started recording. I really admire you and what you've been able to accomplish in, almost 4 years. And that might seem like a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long at all as far as your career.
Oh,
And obviously, you had a pretty good foundation, I think, with Accenture, of course, and interacting with a wide variety of clients. But man, you are a shooting star, man. I mean,
thanks,
you
man.
just came in, fire hot, and everyone knows Ben Heller now, and everyone knows Price Point. So I just wanted to commend you on that. Was that
Thanks.
something that was premeditated as far as the sales process, or was it kind of organic, or what was your mentality as far as starting out and you're like, okay, obviously we need to get into some doors, we need to get in front of people, but as far as getting more visibility within the industry, what was your approach?
Um, I'd say that it starts with branding, not personal branding, but actually branding of the company. I find marketing and branding very fascinating. And my wife runs media strategy for Americas for Bose and Hotels.com.
Oh
I'm
man.
friends with lots of her friends. One of her friends is responsible for media for Anheuser-Busch. Those are the kind of people that come to our house
Wow.
for
that's
house
some
parties.
that's some great people to pick their brains.
Great people. And so I would talk with one of my good friends, Ezra Surwitz. He's a brand platform specialist who bills out at 3,000 a day. He's a genius. And he would just talk to me, and I would think about like positioning and what my clients were doing, and what the prospects were, what the challenge was, what's the story. And that I said, start with why earlier. What's our why? Why do we exist? Why is this important to you? Why can this help you? And so I spent a lot of time in the beginning of the company just focusing on our name, because we actually had two names. We had Grip Procure,
Yeah.
and Price Point was the product. And I was like, this is not good. We got to fix that. So I think in doing that and spending a lot of time focusing on like who we were, that enabled the communication of like how we work, what we do. It
Mm.
made that much simpler.
A
And then
clear and consistent message.
yeah, and then like I guess I developed a high tolerance for repetition of telling the story, and it was actually at a Eura where someone did I think it was John Harmon did a speech on storytelling and adding vulnerability to it.
Yeah.
And like my story is, the reason why I think this is important is because I, a so-called expert in procuring mobility, screwed it up horribly,
Yeah.
horribly multiple times, even though I was a so-called expert. If a so-called expert has that big a challenge in ensuring that a client's going to get a quality move at a fair price, like that's an industry-wide problem. And I felt like that we could use that as a story. And so it's constantly evolved. I feel like in general, the mobility industry could use work on that, could help, like focusing on who they are. What are the three words that really describe their business? What is their differentiation territory? um, I think focusing on that and then communicating that to everyone in a really simple way, that has value to everyone. And
Yeah.
I feel like just by just genuine interest, I got lucky into being able to do that, communicate, and also because I had been on the buying side at Accenture, I came into this knowing probably 50 mobility people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to talk to them and ask them questions. And what I found really hard at first, actually, and I'm sure that you've experienced this too, like when you change jobs, the people that liked you before don't necessarily like you anymore.
Sure.
And that was really hard. But the ones that stayed friendly with me, like I value that, and I went out of my way to help them when I could. And you know, this industry works on terrific relationships, and I'd say that most of our new business is coming from people that are saying, "Hey, I know you're doing something with Household Goods. Go talk to Ben Heller. He's a good guy. Like you can learn something." And that happens all the time now. And so I feel, you know, it was I like, what is it? Opportunity is when luck and perseverance, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really well said. Kind of to your branding and marketing point, I think it's really an interesting industry because I always use this as a comparison. It's not a super fair comparison, but say I was opening a gym, and well, this is obviously not very relevant now because gyms aren't open. But okay, imagine gyms are open. I'm opening a gym, and obviously there are geographic parameters, restrictions, because I'm not going to market to someone in Long Island for a gym in Charlotte.
Sure.
But essentially, I can target anyone in the greater Charlotte area that wants to exercise and wants to get fit or drop a couple pounds, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like I kind of compare it to like a shotgun approach. You know, you're blasting out, you know, it's about kind of numbers. Whereas in our industry, you know, there really is a finite number of decision makers.
Right.
And I really compare it to as like a rifle shot, you know?
It's totally a rifle shot.
Yeah. And so that's something I constantly think about where it's like, okay, who is your audience? What are they paying attention to? How do you have visibility with them? Because when I first started, you know, before LinkedIn and everything, you know, in 2007, when I first started, I would pick up the phone and ask for someone in the HR department who handles relocation. And that got me some places just because, you know, the effort that I put in and deal with rejection fairly well. But, you know, it's nothing like it is today as far as, you know, how you can research and try to gather information before. But it's still a challenge because there's such a limited number of kind of like the targeted people that you're going after. Does that
Sure. Absolutely. And I completely agree with you. And I would say that that's actually one of the areas where we got pretty lucky in that we had, if someone was on the fence or skeptical of us, like, all right, that's not the right person. We needed to find innovators who liked what we did, and if we overachieved, fell in love with us. Like that's the type of person that I've been looking for. And now we're sort of in the early adopters phase, and it's the same kind of thing. I'm finding a handful of people who see what we do as valuable, and like, what can we do to make them fall in love with us? And and focusing on that. And I just think good things are going to come from that. Because if you have, we've been really lucky in that we've had very little churn, and um, but like it is really hard. It is absolutely a rifle shot, and I think that, like, keeping it real, your job is harder than mine.
Mm.
Like selling like moving services from the procurement side is viewed as a pure commodity. I remember meeting with lots of people in mobility and procurement that didn't even want to talk to the movers. It was like,
Right.
oh, another mover. Like that is hard to sell because you have to differentiate yourself in a very similar environment to others. And so I feel like part of it is some companies have been done a really good job of actually differentiating themselves in the industry, but that is also very hard to do, but worth the time and energy. But no, I think you're totally right. But and you said a lot of nice things about me. I can say a lot of nice things about you. I think you've done a wonderful job elevating your brand. I think you're a wonderful and genuine person, and clients are lucky to have you.
Oh, thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. Okay, on that note, we'll take off. No, I'm kidding. That's
Can I
awesome.
ask you a question
Yeah,
before
of
we
course.
wrap up?
Yeah, bring it on.
So you played baseball at Clemson.
I did.
I think that a lot of people hear that and they want to hear about the good times. And
Okay.
what I think that I'm most interested in is hearing, what does it take to not only get on Clemson baseball team, high-ranking baseball team,
Yeah.
but what does it take from an effort standpoint to stay there? What's the training regimen, time commitment? Because I think, like, I look back at the hard things and I don't really remember them, but like I realized that I had to do some of the hard things to get there. And I imagine to be on Clemson baseball team, you had to give up a lot and do a lot of things. I was curious about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you asking that. Yeah, it's and I had a pretty unique story, and I'll give you kind of the Reader's Digest version. But I was not highly recruited out of high school, and so I could have gone and played at a couple D2 smaller schools. But I really wanted a big college experience and wanted to go to a big school and, kind of have something to cheer for and something to hold on to, after I graduated.
Mhm.
And so I am a big Clemson fan. And so anyway, so I go to school there. I actually end up walking on to the team. And so I tried out, end up walking on, and I ended up walking on my senior year. And so I go through my first 3 years as a regular student. I was in a fraternity. I did, regular, student stuff. And then my senior year, it just worked out where I had a great tryout and was invited on, and I made the team. And we were really good. So we were number one in the country at one point. So we were a really good team, and it was wild how it worked out. But all these different dominoes kind of started falling where I played middle infield, so shortstop or second base,
Mhm.
and two guys I think did not make grades as we came back into the spring, and they were all infielders, so they didn't make it. We had one guy that blew his knee out in during the winter break, and so he didn't come back. And then our starting shortstop, I mean, really bad. He ended up coming back, so it was fine. Nothing. There wasn't one singular event, but his neck just started bothering him, kind of, and got eventually worse, and they had to go in and take a look at it. He had a season-ending neck surgery. Yeah, so that was rough. But so they slid over the starting second baseman to shortstop, and now it was between me and a true freshman to play second base. And we kind of split time. I actually ended up starting 14 games while we were ranked, top 10, top 15. And it was just a wild experience. And so I still had all these friends, from my fraternity and just buddies and everything from school. And so they actually had guys during home games, they would paint their chest with my name in the outfield and like cheer for me. It was wild, man. It was a lot of fun. And my walkout, you know what a walkout song is?
Mhm. Yeah.
When you walk to the plate. So most of the guys, they would just do whatever the newest rap song was or whatever song, popular song they liked. And so I'm actually kind of like a closet Star Wars fan. And so I did the Imperial March, and it was awesome, Ben. It was so cool. Like everyone with like the guys, the grounds crew guys with their rakes, they would start like acting like they were like lightsaber fighting with each other. And I would go to home plate because it was just like, it was, I mean, I love it. It's so cool. Like, you know, and it builds up, you know, as you're walking. And it's so different from, because everyone else would have like some kind of pop or rap song, you know.
That's great.
So different. So it was so much fun. But yeah, I mean, it was such a unique experience because I'd gone from a normal student day to day, kind of doing my own thing. And, you know, I enjoy working out. And so I was staying in shape, but, you know, I had to now kind of switch gears where I wasn't going to coast through my senior year. I was going to, you know, have to obviously go to practice, have to go to early workouts.
Right.
So that was a real challenge. You know, I think I've always been able to kind of have good perspective in life. And so in kind of whatever mode I'm in, mode of life, station of life I'm in. And so for my senior year, I was like, man, listen, obviously you're never going to have this opportunity again. You know,
Right.
this is like once in a lifetime, really. And so you need to make the most of it and just, you know, put in the effort, stay engaged, stay involved. This is a great example. I'll finish with this story. We had several like All-Americans. We had 9 guys that were drafted
Wow.
off of that team. Yeah, in 2007, a left-handed pitcher. He was drafted 4th overall by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah, so we were good. And so it's just wild me being on this team, but it was really cool. And a couple of the guys, very popular guys, like especially because Clemson, it's just a college town. There's nothing else around it, and that to me that's part of the charm.
Sure.
Only Clemson all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the baseball program, it's really popular there, and so usually there's a lot of people there, and kids in particular, they'll wait outside the locker room for players to come sign autographs, sign balls, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a couple of guys who are really popular, All-Americans. You know, they're going to get drafted high. And I remember a couple of them after a game, they were talking, they were like, man, I'm actually going to walk around the other way because I just don't really feel like, you know, signing stuff and kind of whatever. And I was like, man, forget that. I'm going out there in the middle of that and I'm signing everything. So I really did that. And it was hilarious because I did play a little bit, but these kids would be like, who are you again? I just be like, give me that ball. I decided to give it right back to him because when in my life ever am I going to sign something? Is someone going to ask my signature for my signature? I never again. I don't, you know. So
now on contracts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of my short version, but yeah, I mean, even to this day, I still stay in touch with the head coach from that team who is in the collegiate baseball Hall of Fame. He's kind of a living legend kind of guy. We had lunch a few months ago before all the COVID stuff hit. And just a great resource, I mean, for just leadership principles.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just a really cool way as far as like, you know, structure and discipline to kind of enter the workforce, you know, for me to end kind of my college career and then kind of take that into my career. So
that's what I was thinking. Like you've got to work your tail off. Like you have to, you said early workouts, and I'm assuming this is probably every day or 6 days a week, right?
Yep. Sundays. Yep. Just about.
Yeah. And, but that kind of discipline sets you up so that, every morning now you've got the 2 kids in a stroller that you're running down the street, now getting your day ready.
The double jogging stroller, man. So yeah, it works out. Well, Ben, man, I could talk to you, you know, for a couple more hours. I do. Let's put a pin in our marketing point. I'd love to talk to you about, you know, specifically maybe like we're going like way over time here, but maybe like a 15-minute conversation just on marketing within the service industry and specifically within relocation. I'd love to kind of like bounce some ideas off of you. So
sure.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Ben. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
David.
it. For Ben Heller, I'm David Bunnell. Thanks for catching up.
Thanks, guys.